Well, hello and welcome back to the Well After Hours. I'm your host, Beverly Allen, and we are about to conclude our series that we have been having on the community pastor, God's Light in Darkness. And I want to welcome my very special guest today, Pastor Leo Clifford Smith III. Thank you, Pastor Smith, for taking time to be with us on the Well today.
We appreciate this opportunity to speak on about the community and different things that's going on, and I thank you for this. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. While I know that you are a young pastor, and by that I mean longevity as far as pastoring, you've been in there at least for about 4 years, if I'm correct, and but it's not new to you. Because since you were born, you have been around pastors your entire life. I mean, your dad is a pastor who recently retired a few years ago. Your grandfather, the late Bishop Weeks, was a pastor. Your uncles, aunts, you have pastors all in your family, and you've basically been trained at the feet of the best of them. So it's not new, but can you tell the viewers a little bit about your journey to the pastorate?
Well, as you stated, I grew up in the ministry, was going to church even before I was born. And as time went on, you begin to gain interest in ministry. Well, children oftentimes who grew up in ministry, they can either grab a hold of ministry and become a part of it, or as they get older, they scatter and do their own thing. I leaned towards ministry based upon relationship with God. I understood it, understood everything, and my journey, I just grew up in it. So automatically growing up in something, you have a sense that of your purpose. And as you stated, many of my family members have been in ministry, pastors, and so from that journey for me, it was easy to accept ministry and go into it at the appointed time. And when it came time for me, from moving up the ranks from a minister to assistant pastor and then pastor, it was a wonderful journey, and it was easy to partake of. It wasn't hard. I know some people have it hard, but because I was in the ministry, and I was in the first family household, I knew everything a lot of pitfalls that normally pop up. And so I was well prepared for whatever comes my way, and some stuff hasn't come my way just yet, but I have insight on knowing how to handle it a little bit better.
Wow, that is awesome. Well, then, that brings me to another question. What thing or things, if any, could prepare you for this pandemic that we've been, going through? I mean, if anything, that would seem like that would be such a hard hit. What would you say really kind of helped you, kind of steady yourself when this hit?
Well, even before I came in, there's multiple areas. The first thing is when I came into pastorship, there was a group that began to take my service, take my messages. And when they started doing that, we moved into Facebook and YouTube taping my messages. And so and they began to broaden our webpage. So that began to open us up to social media. So from that perspective, we were good. When the pandemic hit, we were not trying to find out what to do because certain things were already in place, even though it wasn't like everybody else, because some people have gone way beyond what we have done, but at least that part we were sound with. Our members were together, so they believe in coming to church and fellowshipping and doing those different things. So so that was a little adjustment, but it was something that we was able to quickly make adjustment with, as far as bringing them to social media online. Again, the first week or two, it was a big adjustment, but we were able to adjust quickly because we had already had things in place that we didn't even know about. But then when it came time to it, we was able to just tap into what we had, and we were able to go on social media, what our message is and just be able to flow very well. You know, it wasn't a big jump for us. And then when it comes down to giving, our membership has always been talked about giving and assisting in the ministry. So that was already in their heart. So from that perspective, we did not take a hit financially as other ministries might have taken a hit. You know, again, the first week might have been the only hit we might have really received because it just happened like that. And we have to adjust to it. But God has been blessing us. And I appreciate what God has been doing for our ministry. He's kept us safe. And I look forward to him taking us through this journey until we can come out of it.
Wow, that is so awesome because as you said, you were doing social media before the pandemic. So that was one thing, and probably broadened it even more, you know, after
Yes.
the pandemic, going through it. But you all were also reaching out. You had such a strong outreach ministry to the community, which surpassed even the zip code of your church.
Yes.
You all were doing, phenomenal things for the community, and the community looks to the church, you know, for so much. How did it affect the pandemic and the church's relationship when the pandemic hit? I mean, how did it affect the members? How were people affected, or as you saw it in the community by the pandemic?
It's so interesting because when I think it was March the 21st, I think that was it was a Saturday. I think it was the 23rd, 20th, something like that, in March 2020. We were having our feeding program, and on that day, the governor had declared a state of emergency. And when that happened, I thought it was only going to be a 1 week, 2 week thing. It didn't. It started adding up, going a little bit further. And so I didn't know exactly how we were going to do our feeding program. I was tempted to stop doing our food pantry, and really our food pantry. I was tempted to stop doing our food pantry because I didn't want any of our volunteers or our members to get caught up with COVID and all these different things. I said, but at that time, from March on, we had always been outside. The Lord has blessed us, even when it snowed. When it came to our food pantry, which was the third Saturday of every month, it was clear. So we were able to stay outside. And I was very amazed that we were able to stay outside. Matter of fact, we've been outside since March the 20th or March 2020, and we haven't gone back inside as far as our food pantry yet. And so I was very grateful because, again, I didn't know what we were going to do. And one time I thought we maybe have to just put things in boxes and to try to give the people food that way. But we didn't even have to implement that yet. We were able to still function like as if nothing ever happened. And the Lord has blessed us with a lot of food from the food pantry. And so we were able to continue on serving the community. The community was being served in a level that even our church, because we closed down the church and we didn't even open up the church for over a year as far as having in-house services and anything. But the community, once a month, we were able to come out and serve the community.
Wow. And, that leads me to another thing. So viewers, listen, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and we're just going to take a short break so we can show you how Bethlehem Community Church actually functioned, through the pandemic, because they provided tremendous service to the community. Any of you who came through it, you know how difficult it was, even by going to the food stores. Food was flying off the shelves, and people were caught in the loss of jobs and so many things. But we're going to come right back. I want to show you how Bethlehem Community Church actually was such a blessing to the community during the pandemic, and still is. So we'll be right back. I'm sure you all were just so amazed and pleased seeing how Bethlehem Community Church under Pastor Smith's guidance, they really extended themselves beyond the call of duty, really. And as Pastor Smith, as you were saying, how, you were concerned about, as any pastor would, about their, membership dealing with the COVID or being, put in harm's way. They stepped up. I mean, what did
Yes,
they
they did.
say? I know I'm sure you talked to them, but they convinced you that, and I'm sure in a sense that it was okay because you had so many of including your wife, was out there lending the hand to feed. Tell me about that.
Well, again, when this hit, I didn't know what was going to happen. But at that time, our volunteers, we were getting at least 20 volunteers per Saturday during our events. And that did not increase. Matter of fact, it actually increased as far as volunteers helping to unload the truck and get things situated. And the people are happy because, again, they're getting blessed through their service, but they also get blessed because they become partakers of what is there. And we have not missed a beat as far as our volunteers. I mean, they come, and these are most of our help, or 50-50 comes from outside ministry. So these are people that come from outside the ministry that come and help and assist to get things done. And that's what you want to be able to do. And that makes a great impact, that we can be able to get people outside of the ministry to get things done and are willing to come and help.
Would you say, as to your virtual church that you all were operating under, that, and I've heard different pastors say that actually what you might thought would have been a hindrance, as you said, there was no decrease in the volunteers, but it seemed like there was an increase in the virtual population that was joining the church or joining the services of the church. Some who maybe wouldn't have normally been exposed were more exposed virtually by your online presence.
And that is correct, because there are people who may not have shown up at service, were now showing up at service when you wonder why they wouldn't show up in person, but now it's on social media. They're able to tap in and they will be right there. We even had someone that was at the hospital one time to deal with something, and right there they was able to turn on social media and be right there amongst the service and be able to have while they were in the hospital. And so social media has definitely been a blessing. Whether the body of Christ want to accept it or not, has been a blessing to the body of Christ, because it has opened up our horizon to tap into new resources that we may not have tapped into any other way. And again, we have begun, I guess, in the month of June, we held our first outdoor service since 2020. And when we came out with our outdoor service, what we did do is we have people live and we have people on social media. And so we were able to bring the two together and still have a wonderful time. And again, when things settle down and we're able to go into a little adjustment with our services in-house and things get down to a little sense of normalcy, we're going to continue that process, because again, that's where we at. That's where society has taken us, and that's where we have to begin to grow from. And again, some people are not going to come to church physically, but if you're online, they will be right there and they will be participating like anybody else.
I think this pandemic, as you say, has taught everyone something,
Yes.
about what we call like digital discipleship and the digital church, that the church
Correct.
is definitely more than the building. It is definitely the ecclesia, as they say, those called out ones, the body of Christ, or the body of believers that are the church.
Yes.
And even though, as you say, your services were closed, you still used your property, to serve the community, and that,
Yes.
that it was able to be used for more than just, the place where we come and sing and, hear preaching and things, but it was able to be used to benefit the community. And I'm sure that was, I think it was necessary to be seen too, because so many people, always feel like the church is just there for one thing, but I can't even imagine a community without a church being there, because it's
And
the
you're
one
correct.
place, people look to. It's the one place people turn to when they can't get to an organization or they can't get to an agency. They're going to come to the church.
Well, I can definitely say that I don't know what other food pantries do, but I definitely can say that the food pantry at BCC gives out a whole lot of food, and the people walk out there with basket loads of food product diversity, and they can't not leave there satisfied of what they're able to pick up, because the food pantry has blesses the ministry to be able to do a lot of they do as well.
That is awesome, as they were able to see. Anybody who's just saw that presentation on how Bethlehem Community Church was actually operating, through these times, and continues to do it, would be amazed, that nobody would have to leave. Anybody that was hungry, people, the elderly, and you saw all different ages in line, whether they were elderly, whether they were seniors, whether they were,
Yes.
single mothers with kids, and, people out of work that needed to. That's such a blessing,
Yes.
because it took people by storm. There's no doubt about it. And I think the Lord, as I said, was really gracious to us to bring us this far through with all that has happened, and to see many people make it through. So, and as they continue to move onward. So what would you say is in the forefront now as you are moving forward? We hope we're better off than we were, and we're trying not to go back to where we were, according to everything I hear on the news, because you all even, I think, had a time where you even offered, I don't know whether you were partnering with someone or not, if I'm correct, weren't you also issuing, or had a day where you issued the actual vaccine?
Yes, we did do that. We partnered with the East Orange Association for Teachers. We did that. We had a day of COVID on a Saturday, so that people who wanted to receive a vaccine were able to come and receive a vaccine. Again, we're trying to branch out in ministry. We're trying to branch the ministry out and doing other things in the community outside of service. Again, service is wonderful. That's the connection, because we all need to have a connection with God, but at the same time, you want to be able to help the community in different ways. And that's one way we were able to branch out and help the community with those that came to get vaccinated and be able to just handle this pandemic that we're in.
Yes. So, what do you foresee in the future, as far as, are you planning on doing many things differently, or expanding any particular areas of how your church will operate as the Lord is leading you?
But we're going, as with everyone else, we're going one step at a time, not necessarily projecting too far up, because we don't really know what the Lord has outlined for us as a people. I said we're in it, and as long as we continue to pray as a people, God will bring us through, and then we have to begin to make wise decisions relative to what we do. As a leader, my objective is to make sure I protect and keep the sheep safe. And so some of the decisions I make is based upon that perspective, to keep the sheep safe, because you can't have members, you can't have visitors, you can't have people being hurt during this time. You're a protector, and God called us as leaders to protect the flock. And I'm going to do everything I possible with His guidance and direction to do just that. All I can say is, with this pandemic, has allowed us to jump into social media in a different way that I didn't think about. We also have had outdoor services, so that's another thing that, even though I didn't see it before coming to fruition this way, But since we've done it a few times outside, this is something that I do believe we will continue, especially during the summer months, to have outdoor services, because that's another way of outreaching the community. People, again, since we've been outside, people have begun to listen from wherever they're at, even though they may not come into our particular area. They were on the street, they were back in the houses, on their porches, listening. And so that's a plus. That means we're reaching the community in a different way, because everyone's not going to come into your storehouse to be partake of what's going on. But if they're listening, the word is touching them. That's all they need to do, be touched by the word. It's about planting the seed. And if the seed is planted, we don't know how it's going to be watered and how it's going to turn out. But that little bit of aspect that we do makes a difference.
It certainly does. Are you also, while you're outdoors, are you also streaming those services, or?
Well, all our services are, well, what we stream on social media, on our Google Meet is our full service. What goes on Facebook and YouTube is just simply the message part. And so that's another area which we will advance in the future, doing a whole service and doing it that way. We haven't gotten to that level yet of working everything out in order to put on excellent service that people can receive something with. But again, that's the direction I'm looking to go down in the near future.
That is awesome. That is really awesome. And the fact that that you can do outside, and yet people can feel safe. If there is another shutdown, at least they can get to you. They can stay connected.
Yes.
And that's a wonderful thing. And I think people are surprised that as I've heard other pastors even say, that some people who wouldn't even come to church, maybe will never come to their church, were online faithfully, in attendance, and actually giving, they're giving, they didn't hold their giving. So it just goes to show that there is a large group of people that are yet unreached, that the media side can reach, the online digital church will be able to reach, especially through the pandemic, because people weren't even, they were so shut in that all they had basically, was to be able to go online and to actually see services.
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We're in a season now that we can, a person can go to church 24/7. And I can leave one service and go to the next service and go to the next service and go to the next service. And so this is a time that no one can't say that they're not getting the word, and they're not getting something that can address their need or where they're at. You can find something now like never before, because again, there's all type of information that's on social media like never before. This is the best time to get things, or for the gospel to be resources.
Yes, disseminated, because it can, I can only imagine what Paul would be doing if he lived in this time, to get the gospel out. Look at what they did with no media tools, no anything. And now we have all of this. And so, that is definitely a plus. And the other thing I would like viewers to know is that not only are you a skilled pastor, a compassionate, dedicated, committed pastor, but you were actually, your career could have gone in another direction, being that you are an accountant. You're college educated, you're trained in finances and things like that. So you could have, taken had a good career and employed in that respect.
And people do, again, as I stated, many children or preachers' kids, as they oftentimes say it, they grow up in church and then they can easily leave for whatever reason. The process of having to endure whatever they have to deal with relative to growing up, everyone can't handle that. And at the same time, some people don't realize that the enemy gets busy because he does not want people to fulfill their complete purpose and their destiny. And so he gets busy to get them distracted into other things. And again, their purpose, their destiny is left on the wayside for someone else to have to pick up. They may come to it eventually, but the question is, look how much time they wasted because they strayed and they allowed the enemy to take them out of their purpose and their destiny, especially when they know their purpose and destiny.
You know, that is so true what you just said. And I think of your parents, Bishop Leo C. Smith Jr. and your mom, who, you know, also ministered beside him in Bethlehem Community Church. It must give them great joy to know, you know, how the Lord is using you and has, you know, how you have received the calling to step in and continue the work, you know,
Yes.
that they've for many years, you know, have put in. And now here you are, kind of like Joshua, taking it to a whole new level.
That's my objective, to take it to the next level. Again, we still have some time and we still have some things to do. I said, but we will continue to climb until we reach the heights that we need to reach. And again, again, it's about praying, staying in God's face. And as we pray and stay in God's face, He will give us the proper direction to go to the next level.
And it's been a good shift too in Bethlehem. It's like the, you know, sometimes because of the youth of a pastor, people, you know, don't know necessarily whether it will be a good fit, but because they actually saw your footprints, you know, saw you coming up, you know, even under the ministry of your parents, how seriously you've always, you know, you've always been a serious, you know, young man, and to take it now, to be able to take it like that is such a blessing and a comfort, I'm sure, to the membership that was there. They didn't have to worry because your father, you know, and mom had prepared, you know, you for that. And there's no question as that, if anything, and to be able to see the fruit of their labor continue to go on is monumental.
Yes.
For them, because they founded the church. They wasn't like they took over some church. This is what they have founded. So.
And before my father stepped down for about 2 years or a year and a half, he allowed me to minister on many of the Sundays. So, and before long, I was ministering more Sundays than he was. And through that process, the transition, as you said, allowed the transition to move smoothly because, again, I was ministering on Sundays and it just was able to function and flow easily. So that was a good transition.
That is so awesome. Let me ask you this as we get near to the close. What advice or what encouragement would you give to another pastor who may be facing, who is facing the same, I guess, pandemic and times that, you know, you're facing, and to get through this, you know, because it hasn't been a cakewalk. I mean, this is probably one of the toughest times in our, you know, that we have faced in this present lifetime. And like you say, we don't know what lies ahead. What would be your encouragement or advice to them at this time?
My advice to any pastor, and as a matter of fact, beyond pastor, anyone that's dealing with this particular season we're in, is to speak positive. Never accept the negative, despite how much the negative is staring you in the face, despite what it looks like, what people are telling you. You have to stay positive, because as long as you stay positive, there's a hope. And you need that hope, because that hope is tied to your faith. And that gives you the belief that you can come out of, and you're going to come out strong. But when you gravitate to the negative and you start listening to the negative, it becomes part of your nature. And that's all, you start speaking negative despite what's going on. And yes, we're in difficult times, but from a positive perspective, this is our greatest time. This is our greatest season. This is our season of growth in every aspect of our lives. And that's what we have to grab a hold of as a people, to understand this is our season. And yes, it could be our worst season because a lot of bad things are going on in this season, but this is our best season, especially for the body of Christ, because in the body of Christ, this is our season where God is calling us to get on our knees, to pray, to stay in God's face, so that we can become more empowered in him, so that he can begin to change some things around us and in us and open up doors of favor and all those different blessings that he has for us. This is our time to get everything that he has for us. And yes, again, as I said, it's difficult, but you have to stay positive in the midst of difficult situations. And if you do that, you will find yourself coming out of it, because your focus is on the positive, and as well as it's on God.
Amen. Yes.
And again, that's another thing, keeping your focus on God through prayer, and just stay in that mode until you see the light. And there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We don't know when it's going to show up, but if we stay and focus on God, we'll be out the light and won't even know it, because our focus is on him and not on our situation around us. And that's the enemy's trick. He wants us to be caught up in what's going on, because that's how he keeps us in a state of bondage and keeps us in a state of keeping us hostage to something that we shouldn't be hostage to.
Trying to put us in a state of hopelessness. Absolutely. You know, as the apostle said, where sin abounds, grace doth much more abound. And so no matter how bad it gets, God's grace will meet us on every level, at every turn. And like you say, you know, we have to feed our faith.
Yes.
We just have to feed our faith and not our fears, you know.
Correct.
So that is so true and so awesome that you would, you know, speak that. And I really thank God and appreciate you taking the time to, you know, be on. And the community pastor is such an important resource. Is such an important source, that candlestick in the midst of everything that, you know, and that's why I say I'm encouraged, because I know that God is going to uphold you all.
Yes.
You know, he's commanded you to feed the flock of God, which he has purchased with his own blood, and you can't feed it, but he doesn't feed you. So, you know, if he's not upholding you, you can't do what he's told you to do. And if he's called you to do it, he's certainly going to take you through it and give you all that you need and the strength. And I want to say thank you, Pastor Smith and Bethlehem Community Church, for your services through this pandemic and helping out so many, you know, people. The Lord said, what you've done unto the least of these, my brethren, you've done also unto me. So you did a great service to the community, and you really did let your light so shine before men that would glorify, you know, the work of Christ. And so I thank you for that, and thank your church. I thank, you know, your family that stood by you. Thank Bishop and Lady Joyce Smith, Minister Joyce Smith, for setting such a strong foundation, you know, that you could build upon, because everybody is blessed by it. And I'm so encouraged, and thank you for taking the time to be on the well today. And we will be praying for you as well as you go forward, you know, doing the work of the Lord. Because you could have been like many and said, well, you know, that was good for my parents, but that's not for me. But the call was definitely on your life, and you answered the call. And so God is so good. And
yes, he is.
And we're happy about that. So as we look to close out, I want to ask you, would you please close us out in prayer?
Yes.
Thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for blessing everyone that is listening to us right now in Jesus' name. We thank you that the words that are spoken will touch their heart, will bring them to a closer relationship with you. Yes. Lord, you know what they're in need of. You know how to touch their need and to bring a resolve to it. And so we thank you that in this season of hopelessness, in the season of oppression and depression, we thank you, Lord, for being the answer that we need to come out of what we're in. You're the God that can fix anything that we find ourselves in, and there's nothing too hard for you. And so we thank you that in this season, that as we draw
Thank you.
closer to you,
Thank
your
you.
hand will be upon our lives and will
Yes.
bring us to a closer relationship with you. And you will take us out of what we're in now.
Jesus.
In
Thank you.
Jesus' name.
Yes.
We thank
Lord.
you, we praise you, and we glorify your name. In
Yes.
Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Pastor Smith. Thank you, viewers, for, joining us again at the well. We look for you every Thursday because you'll be blessed when you can hear these wonderful, wonderful testimonies and see the Lord in action through his people, because we are his hands, we are his feet, we are his voice. And we ask you to pray for Pastor Smith, pray for the well, pray for all the pastors, but to show you, to give you a sense of what the community pastor really does and, what he goes through. Because like Pastor Smith, you didn't just bring the church, you had your family you had to think about.
Yes.
You have a wife, you have children, you didn't just come through the pandemic, alone, and then the care of the church and the care of the community. So, I mean, that was quite, quite sacrificial. And so that's what we really wanted to highlight and spotlight
Yes.
on the well, to show people, so they don't think that, pastors don't go through everything. They may see some that seem like they're living on a bed of ease, but that's not the case for all. So thank you for that. And so we'll look for you viewers on the well again next week. And until then, we'll say, be blessed and stay safe and stay well. God bless you. And again, thank you, Pastor Smith.
Thank you.